Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 10 Part 2 based on novel. So let's start. The camp was in a state of complete chaos. The powerful experts from Blood Python City wore terrified expressions as they looked at the exceptionally miserable Leisian duo. It was likely that none of them had expected that two powerful warriors from their Blood Python City were actually so easily defeated by the young man standing before them. At this moment, Xin had also hurried over from behind. After which, she landed on the prison cart. Her large eyes immediately revealed some joy upon seeing the two ladies, Sister Qing, Sister Liu. Xin? The two ladies, who were originally a little frightened, looked at Xin in a somewhat absent-minded manner. A moment later, they finally recovered their senses. Immediately, joy quickly rose in their eyes while tears began to gather. Lin Dong glanced at those three ladies who were crying. After which, he turned to look at the deepest part of the campgrounds. There was an extremely obscure aura that was a lot stronger than the Leisian duo at that spot. Clearly, he was the strongest one in this group. However, it seems like the latter was extremely proficient at concealing his aura. In fact, Lin Dong only detected it after approaching the campgrounds. At this moment, those surrounding experts wore startled expressions as they looked at the deepest part of the campground. Could there be another expert from Blood Python City there? Could it be? Some experts frowned slightly and muttered to themselves. Haha, I never imagined that a human actually dares to act so arrogantly in the Beast War region. A hoarse laughter was emitted from the campground in front of everyone's eyes. After which, everyone's eyes were dazzled. By the time they refocused their eyes, they saw that a grey-robed figure had already appeared in front of the various experts from Blood Python City. This person had a pale face. Both his eyes were sunken and he appeared a little sinister. His arms were exceptionally long and as sharp as a sword. Occasionally, a faint fog would linger around his body. That fog was pungent and clearly contained a lethal poison. Junior Governor of Blood Python City? Cowang. The crowd parted noisily after this person appeared. Even those experts from Blood Python City took a step back and distanced themselves from this man. All of them revealed a terrified expression. Junior City Governor. The Leisian duo hurriedly climbed onto their feet and hurried to Cowang's side in a miserable fashion. The Xin trio experienced a change in expression when they saw this person appearing. In fact, those two young ladies from the Nine-Tailed tribe revealed a tinge of hopelessness in their eyes. No one had expected that there was actually such a powerful person in this unit from Blood Python City. No need to be afraid. Xin gently comforted them. Cowang was indeed quite well known. He was at the advanced profound death stage and was much stronger than the Leisian duo. However, he did not pose much of a threat to Lin Dong. The horror in the eyes of the two ladies diminished a little after they saw Xin calm expression. Subsequently, they secretly peeked at the tall Lin Dong beside them. They could tell that the reason why Xin was able to remain calm was largely because of him. However, did he really possess the strength to fight Cowang? The latter was an advanced profound death stage expert. I will be taking them away. Do you have any objections? Lin Dong smiled gently towards Cowang. From his tone, it seems like he was asking a question. However, only those who frequently engaged in life and death battles could sense the sharpness and iciness hidden under the smile. A human like you actually dare to say such words? Aren't you looking down on our demonic beast world? Leisians cried out sternly. Clearly, he wanted to take advantage of Lin Dong's race to make him into a common enemy. However, his words did not have much of an impact. Although they felt upset over a human acting so arrogantly in a place like this, the strength that Lin Dong had displayed earlier had also frightened these demonic beasts. Hence, Lin Dong completely ignored him. He merely stared at a pale-looking Cowang and laughed. Your senses seem to be exceptionally sharp. Hence, I believe that you should know that there is no way you can stop me. The surrounding people once again had a change in expression. This was especially so when they saw Cowang's eyes becoming increasingly dark and solemn. All of them felt secretly startled. This young man was actually this powerful? Even Cowang, who had reached the advanced profound death stage, was unable to stop him. You are pitting yourself against our blood python city. You will regret this in the future. Cowang's eyes stared at Lin Dong like poisonous snakes. His voice was dark and sinister. Lin Dong nonchalantly shrugged. Ignoring Cowang, he waved his hand towards Xinqing. After which, he turned around and left. Seeing this, Xinqing hurriedly dragged the two other ladies, who were in a state of disbelief, and swiftly followed. Since you are so arrogant, why don't you leave your name behind? I want to see if my blood python city can afford to offend you. Cowang spoke in a dense voice. Lin Dong. Lin Dong's footsteps paused, as he turned towards Cowang and revealed a brilliant smile. Subsequently, he did not stop and simply left. Those surrounding demonic beast experts hurriedly separated and give way. Their eyes curiously stared at the four individuals who had left. Junior City Governor Lei Zhen and the other experts from Blood Python City watched Lin Dong's group swagger off, with ugly expressions on their faces. Although Lin Dong was quite powerful, it was likely that he would not be able to fight all of them together. I am no match for him. That fellow is no simple fellow. Even if all of us were to fight, it is likely that we would still be unable to hold him. Cowang's eyes were dark and cold as he glanced at Lei Zhen and said, Is he so strong? Hu Lei clenched his teeth and spoke disbelievingly. Cowang was at the advanced profound death stage. However, though it seemed like he possessed fighting strength that exceeds this level, that Lin Dong was merely at the initial profound death stage. Are you doubting my perception? Cowang glanced at Hu Lei, before cold sweat quickly surfaced on the latter's forehead. He shook his head repeatedly. After all, he knew how outstanding Cowang's perception was. If it is not because you two trash were causing a scene, why would such a situation like this occur? Cowang spoke in a dark and cold voice. Lei Zhen Duo's forehead were covered in cold sweat. They did not dare to disagree. What should we do? There are so many people here who saw what happened. Soon, news of this incident would begin to spread. If others learned that we actually allowed a human to openly snatch those women from us, it will be a great embarrassment to our Blood Python City. Some experts from Blood Python City said with great dissatisfaction. Cowang looked at the direction where Lin Dong was heading towards in a sinister manner. A ferocious smile rose on the corner of his lips. It is not so easy to snatch someone that belongs to my Blood Python City. Rest assured, he will regret this. There is only one outcome for those who provoke our Blood Python City. That is death. Ha ha. Suddenly, I really wish to see that brat kneeling and begging for mercy. A bonfire rose in a forest, a great distance from the small wasteland city. Lin Dong sat quietly. After which, he smilingly looked at the three extremely beautiful young ladies bunching up together and speaking softly. Lin Dong could hear some soft exclamations from their soft conversations. Those two young ladies from the Nine-Tailed tribe continuously glanced at him with shock and admiration in their eyes. It was likely that they were listening to Xinqing describing some stories related to Lin Dong. Lin Dong acted as if he did not see anything. He gently leaned on a tree trunk and lifted his head to look at the night sky. His mood was calm as he listened to the soft and gentle voices of the young ladies beside him. The voices beside him continued for a period of time. After which, the extremely tired Nine-Tailed young ladies leaned on each other and fell asleep. Only Xinqing took care of the both of them for a while before hugging a soft blanket and coming to Lin Dong's side. She sat down. Her pretty small face contained a red glow as she looked at Lin Dong and softly said, "Sir Lin Dong, thank you very much." Lin Dong could see a heartfelt gratitude within her eyes. Previously, Xinqing was both afraid and respectful of Lin Dong. However, as of now, there was a genuine trace of reverence present in her eyes. Lin Dong smiled and waved his hand. He glanced at the two ladies, who had fallen into a deep slumber before a glint flashed across his eyes. Although part of the reason why he intervened was to help Xinqing rescue her tribe members, there were also other considerations on his part. According to what Qingxi said, there was a strong likelihood that Little Flame was in this Beast War region. Right now, Lin Dong was unable to comb through such a vast place by himself. In that case, he could only make himself famous. It was likely that Little Flame would understand once his name is transmitted into Little Flame's ears. At that time, they would finally get to reunite. Moreover, in order for his name to spread, there was naturally a need for some stepping stones. Coincidentally, Blood Python City delivered themselves to his doorstep. The incident tonight would likely allow his name to spread. However, this was still far from sufficient. Lin Dong smiled faintly when he thought of this. Blood Python City although he did not have a grudge with them, they came crashing into his path. In that case, they will have to be the sacrificial lambs. Led by Xinqing, Lin Dong continued to travel the next day. However, the latter was a little surprised that Lin Dong, who had raised his speed to the limit during the past 2 days, was currently slowing down on purpose. This caused her to be puzzled. However, she did not dare question him. Instead, all she did was to act as Lin Dong had instructed. Many rumors spread in this region while Lin Dong's group was traveling. Although this Beast War region was filled with conflict, it was rare to see a human that was bold enough to provoke a demonic beast faction in this place. In fact, after some individuals learnt of the incident that occurred to Blood Python City, they became even more curious. Various factions gathered and waited for the show to begin. Ha ha! A young lady's clear and lovely joyous voice reverberated in the sky, adding a little liveliness to the people traveling in a dull manner. Xinqing broke into a small run towards a tall slope. After which, her small face was somewhat excited as she waved her hand towards the few people behind her. She was about to cry out when she realized that something was amiss. There was a large group of people standing on the plains in front of the tall slope. Many blood python flags were fluttering in the wind while a ferocious aura swept from them. At the front of these people, there was a blood python throne. Currently, a blood-robed man was leaning on it. His expression was indifferent as he stared at the few individuals who had appeared on the tall slope. Subsequently, a cruel expression slowly appeared on the corner of his mouth. A black mass of people and horses slowly spread across on the plains in front of them. Those fluttering blood python flags emitted a fearsome aura that could seemingly devour a person, and it seemed like dark clouds had begun to gather in the sky because of it. It looked as though a storm was about to arrive. The Xinqing trio, who were originally wearing smiles on their tiny faces, immediately turned pale when they saw the lineup before them. Subsequently, there was shock and horror in their eyes. From the fluttering flags, they could tell where the group in front of them came from. Moreover, from the looks of it, the Blood Python City had mobilized their entire force, and it was obvious that the target of this campaign was them. Ha ha, they have really came. The young man at the back slowly stepped forward, while the delicate small bodies of the 3 ladies trembled gently. He looked at the lineup in front of him before a smile surfaced on his youthful face. Sir Lin Dong. I'm sorry. Xinqing bit her lips with her mouth while there were tears gathering within her large eyes. She knew that they were in this predicament because she begged Lin Dong to rescue her 2 tribe members. If anything was to happen to Lin Dong here, she would not be able to atone for it even if she died 10,000 times over. The 2 nine-tailed tribe young ladies' pretty face turned ashen. They were about to kneel towards Lin Dong. However, the latter waved his hand and forcefully lifted them up. This is precisely the situation I need. I am the one who is using all of you as bait. There is no need to blame yourselves. Lin Dong smiled. He walked towards the tallest point on the slope and looked in front of him. There were quite a lot of people in this area. Moreover, many of them clearly did not belong to the Blood Python City. Instead, they were from other factions. It seemed like within a short 2 to 3 days' time, news regarding him had spread quite rapidly. However, this was precisely what he needed. A breeze blew across the plains, stirring up dust. However, the tense atmosphere would not scatter. Is that the human who provoked the Blood Python City? He looks so young. I heard that he is very powerful. Even the junior city governor of the Blood Python City is no match for him. However, even Caoying has came this time around. He is an expert who is at half step to perfect profound death stage. It is rumored that at least 10 advanced profound death stage experts were killed by him. Moreover, there are so many experts from the Blood Python city present too. This human fellow is simply too arrogant. However, an arrogant person tends to have a short life. Countless pairs of eyes gathered onto the tall figure on the high slope, while conversation spread. News regarding Lin Dong had spread widely across this region. After all, it has been a long time since a human dared to act so haughtily in the Beast War region. You are that person, Lin Dong, who snatched someone from the hands of my Blood Python city, am I right? The blood-robed man seated on the Blood Python throne, at the front of the Blood Python city, slowly lifted his head amidst all the private conversations. His triangular-shaped eyes were like poisonous snakes, as he stared at the figure on the high slope. A faint voice sounded. You are the governor of the Blood Python city, right? Lin Dong looked at the blood-robed man and smiled. He said, all of you came a little later than I anticipated. Oh. The blood-robed man focused his eyes. The corner of his mouth was lifted with some ridicule as he laughed. You actually knew that my Blood Python city was coming? Lin Dong smiled. He immediately extended his hand and gently grabbed the two young lady from the Nine-Tailed tribe. A suction force was emitted. After which, their delicate bodies shook before two bloodlight appeared from their bodies and turned into two finger-sized tiny blood snakes. There was something within their bodies left behind by your Blood Python city. Hence, we are naturally unable to escape from your detection regardless of where we go. Lin Dong played with the two blood snakes in his hand. His eyes quickly turned cold as he clenched his hand. The two blood snakes were instantly reduced into a blood fog before he randomly tossed them aside. Do you think such creatures can escape my detection? Those two young ladies from the Nine-Tailed tribe's originally pale face turned ashen upon seeing this. It was likely that they did not know that such a creature was planted in their bodies. The blood-robed man looked at the bloody snake, which had turned into a blood fog in Lin Dong's hands, before the smile on his face slowly disappeared. He placed his hands on his knees and leaned forward. His eyes suddenly turned sharp, causing him to appear like a ferocious poisonous snake. Are you saying that you purposefully lure us here? Lin Dong smiled but remained non-committal. After which, he said, make way for us. The eyes of the blood-robed man turned sharp and venomous. Finally, he suddenly stood up and laughed coldly. Brat, although I do not know where you come from, I must admit you are quite good at putting up an act, but... Majestic Yuan power erupted from within his body like torrential waves after he uttered those words. His aura far surpassed that of the advanced profound death stage, and even Hua Chen and Xu Xiu were weaker than him. This person had half a foot in the perfect profound death stage. Brat, you are still a little too tender to try and frighten me off. Today, none of you are allowed to leave. Lin Dong looked at Caoying, who had a shocking aura. He smiled and slowly stepped forward, stepping on the empty space and headed towards the main force of the Blood Python city. An unusual surging Yuan power rose like floodwater as he slowly walked downwards. In that case, let's fight. Lin Dong landed. He stopped 10,000 feet away and laughed. Are you going to fight me one-on-one, or are all of you going to attack together? Big brother, this brat is exceptionally cunning. We should attack together and kill him. Cowang's gaze was gloomy as he spoke. He had exceptionally sharp senses, and for no particular reason, he always felt an uneasy sensation from Lin Dong's body. I am naturally aware that he is trying to provoke me. However, what can an ant do? Caoying mocked coldly. To begin with, demonic beasts loved to fight, and strength was the only thing that they believed in. As the leader of a faction, Caoying naturally had his own pride. Although he would prioritize victory over tactics if things developed to a critical stage, he did not believe that this initial profound death stage human in front of him could do much in his hands. This was the confidence that he had himself. Furthermore, this self-confidence came from the fact that he had killed 10 advanced profound death stage experts before. Cowang was unable to rebut upon hearing this. He also had a great deal of confidence in Caoying. After all, the latter was an expert with half a foot in the perfect profound death stage. His cultivation level was considered top tier even in the entire Beast War region. Although the person standing in front of them, Lin Dong, seemed a little peculiar, even Cowang did not believe that the former could defeat Caoying. Caoying stepped forward after his cold laughter sounded. Bloodlight flashed. In the next moment, he had already appeared in front of Lin Dong. Clenching his hand, a 10 feet large blood-red snake spear appeared in a flash. A cold glow flowed on the snake spear and it looked just like a poisonous snake extending its tongue. As Lin Dong stared at Caoying's frightening aura, he slowly clenched his hand. Traces of lightning gathered on his palm. It subsequently extended, transforming into a lightning scepter filled with electric arcs. There was a vague low and deep thunder roar being emitted. Countless pairs of eyes on the plains gathered on the two people, who were facing off in the sky. They really wanted to find out what abilities this human, who acted in such a lofty fashion, had. Perhaps, like what Caoying claimed, this person was merely trying to put on a brave front in order to frighten others. The demon region honored strength. Regardless if one was a human or a demonic beast, as long as one possessed strength, one would be respected by others. However, if one was merely putting up a false pretense, it was likely impossible for one to survive. Standing on the tall slope, the Xinqing trio stared nervously at the face-off in the sky. The faces of the two young ladies from the Nine-Tailed tribe were filled with worry and uneasiness. It looked as though they were about to cry. Xinqing, that is the city governor of the Blood Python city, Caoying. It is rumored that he has reached the perfect profound death stage level. A young lady softly said while her voice was filled with horror. Perfect profound death stage. This cultivation level was simply far too powerful in their opinion. In fact, in their Nine-Tail clan, the strongest person was merely at the initial profound death stage expert. However, this level was simply too far away from the perfect profound death stage. Although based on what Xinqing told them, they knew that Lin Dong was extraordinary, it was clearly impossible to shake the ferocious image which they had of Caoying for many years. Relax, Sir. Lin Dong once defeated a Samsara stage expert. Even though he borrowed the strength of the crowd, it is clear that this Caoying is far inferior to a Samsara stage expert. Although Xinqing was a little worried, she did not display it at this moment. Instead, she uttered some words of comfort. He fought with a Samsara stage expert before. The two young ladies were involuntarily speechless. Caoying, who had half a foot in the perfect profound death stage, was already an unbeatable existence in their eyes. A so-called Samsara stage expert was basically a legendary existence to them. In fact, even in the entire demon region, such a person could be considered as an overlord. Yet, Xinqing said that this young man, who appeared to be in his 20s, had defeated such a legendary super expert before. Even if it was accomplished by gathering the strength of a crowd, it was still quite a frightening feat. Sir Lin Dong is actually this powerful. The horror within the eyes of the two women finally dissipated. After which, their pretty eyes looked at the unmoving mountain-like skinny figure holding a lightning scepter in the air. Some hope rose within their eyes. Perhaps, he could indeed resolve this desperate situation in front of them. In the sky, Lin Dong ignored the various expressions that filled the mountains. All he did was quietly stare at Caoying, who was holding a snake spear in his hand. A moment later, an arc was lifted on the corner of his mouth. A desire for battle was evident in his black eyes. Let my name become renowned throughout this land. Little flame. I am coming for you. A wind blew past the plains. Dark clouds churned in the sky while darkness covered the land. Beneath the dark clouds, two figures were in a face-off and both their eyes were as sharp as blades. There has never been a person who snatched something from my blood python city without paying a price. Slowly lifting the blood spear in his hand, Caoying pointed it at Lin Dong, who was standing at a far distance away. There was a brutal and fearsome color gathering in his three eyes. In the next moment, this fierceness erupted like a volcano. You shall be no exception as well. A surging yuan power whizzed forward when Caoying's cold cry escaped from his mouth. Wild gales gathered in the sky while his body appeared in front of Lin Dong in a phantom-like fashion. The snake spear in his hand drew a tricky arc, and it was accompanied by a shocking force, as he attacked every fatal spot on Lin Dong's body, with lightning-like speed. Lin Dong's body was as steady as a rock. His black eyes were calm as he stared at the sharp spear shadows heading his way. Suddenly, he clenched his hand, before the lightning emperor scepter in his hand emitted a low and deep thunder roar. Lightning flashed and countless scepter shadows whizzed out. All of them collided against Caoying's sharp attacks. Clear metallic sound swiftly spread across the sky along with some sparks. Moreover, a wild and violent hurricane would explode each time a scepter shadow and a spear shadow clashed. This scene caused the eyelids of many onlookers to twitch. The two figures clashed with lightning speed, pulling back the instant they made contact. After which, they were just like strung bows as they clashed again. Subsequently, the formless air behind them exploded. Lin Dong. He is actually matching up against Caoying? How is that possible? Isn't he only at the initial profound death stage? The head-on clash in the sky also caused a commotion in the plains, and many onlookers had solemn expressions. Only then did they understand that the reason why this young man dared to challenge the Blood Python City was because he was capable of doing so. Wild and violent Yuan power spread. The scepter and spear shadows that filled the air suddenly shrunk. The lightning scepter and snake spear suddenly unleashed a brilliant light. Subsequently, the top of the lightning scepter heavily pressed against the tip of the snake spear. Bang! Terrifying energy ripples spread over the place. In fact, even the space itself became a little distorted because of this collision. Light spread within Caoying's eyes. His sharp eyes firmly stared at the young man's face, which was in close proximity. Meanwhile, he was also feeling secretly stunned in his heart. After all, he could not comprehend how Lin Dong was able to keep up with a perfect profound death stage expert like him, even though he was merely at the initial profound death stage. The intensity of their Yuan power should be different. It seems like he is no simple brat. Caoying's eyes suddenly became dark and cold as this thought flashed across his mind. The seal formed by his hands changed, and the ferocious snake head on the top of the blood snake spear seemed to have been revived. A scarlet light shot out and adhered onto the lightning emperor scepter. After which, it rushed towards Lin Dong with lightning-like speed. There was a unique fragrance within the blood light. However, this fragrance was filled with a lethal poison. Lin Dong looked at the blood light, which was rapidly charging over. His eyes became focused as Yuan power swept out from within his body. However, it was easily broken by the blood light. It seems like there was an extremely dense erosive force within it, and one's Yuan power could not easily block it. Don't you know that my body is that of the blood ghost python? Even an advanced profound death stage expert would die if he touches my poison. Caoying looked at Lin Dong, who was doing his best to block the blood light, before he involuntarily laughed coldly. It would be difficult to block it with ordinary Yuan power. However, Lin Dong merely smiled in the face of the other party's laughter. The lightning scepter in his hand quickly unleashed a bright lightning glow. An extremely pure, wild and violent thunderbolt strength was present in this lightning glow. Subsequently, the lightning gathered and ruthlessly charged towards the raging poisonous blood light. A deafening sound appeared as the collision occurred. However, the formidable blood poison did not have the same effect as it did before. Instead, it emitted a sizzling sound under the lightning glow assault. Finally, a bang sounded and the blood light disappeared completely. How is this possible? Caoying's expression changed upon seeing this. This blood poison was one of his signature killing moves. Typically, even an advanced profound death stage expert would have difficulties escaping if he was touched by it. Even though there were some powerful individuals who could block it, they would still have to expend much effort in order to do so. How is it possible that Lin Dong could do so in such a relaxed fashion? Humph, why don't you try mine too? Lin Dong ignored Caoying's shock. A cold glint flashed in his eyes. The lightning emperor scepter in his hand was accompanied by many revolving lightning glow as it ruthlessly smashed towards the fatal spot on Caoying's chest. Caoying quickly withdrew his snake spear. Although he managed to block the scepter attack, waves of wild and violent force erupted and charged over from the latter. Meanwhile, traces of lightning arcs entered his arm. An intense pain spread from Caoying's arm as those lightning arcs charged into his hand. His expression changed drastically while Yuan power surged from within his body. His entire arm turned blood red as his Yuan power tried to expel the lightning arcs that had invaded his arm. However, it was extremely difficult to deal with these lightning arcs' energy. Hence, blood had already seeped out from the pores on Caoying's body, before the final lightning arc was scattered by the blood-colored Yuan power. "You bastard!" Caoying's arm trembled slightly before his expression suddenly turned venomous. He did not expect that his arm would be the first to be injured in today's fight. "I will swallow you alive today!" Caoying let out a stern cry. He waved his hand before his droplets of blood turned into several bloody lines that hovered in front of him. His finger quickly drew past it and the bloody lines quickly turned into a blood-colored symbol. 10,000 snake blood poison spirit. The monstrous bloody light transformed into 10,000 blood snakes that suddenly swept out from within Caoying's body. Subsequently, they wrapped around the blood-colored symbol and rapidly swelled. In the blink of an eye, they had turned into a 10,000 feet large giant blood snake in the sky. The blood snake's body was covered with strange symbols. Opening its huge mouth, blood-colored saliva continued to drip down. In fact, even the air itself exploded, emitting waves of white smoke. It was as though it was being eroded. A shocking poison spread across the sky. Those experts on the plains below had startled expressions upon seeing this. Immediately, they held their breath. Clearly, they were aware just how poisonous the blood python was. "I'm too lazy to drag it out with you. Devour!" Caoying laughed coldly before he extended his large hand. Immediately, the huge blood-colored python whistled forward. It was extremely fast. Everyone could only see a red light flash across the sky, before in the next moment, the poison spirit had already appeared above Lin Dong's head in front of the many startled eyes. It widened its mouth and devoured Lin Dong. Exclamations filled the sky while many people secretly shook their heads. This battle ended far too quickly. This poison spirit was something that Caoying had refined after much blood and sweat, and even an advanced profound death stage expert would be instantly turned into blood after being swallowed by it. Countless number of people have been devoured by it over the years and not a single person has escaped alive. The two young ladies from the Nine-Tailed tribe on the high slope had a change in their expressions upon seeing this. Only Xinqing tightened her small hand and stared intently at the blood python poison spirit with widened eyes. "You ignorant fool!" Caoying laughed ferociously in the sky. Immediately, his dark and cold eyes were directed towards the Xinqing trio on the high slope. He was just about to strike when a laughter was emitted from within the blood python poison spirit's stomach. "You dare to devour me with just this little amount of poison? Aren't you afraid of overstuffing yourself?" Caoying's eyes shrunk immediately upon hearing this laughter. He was just about to activate his poison spirit when he suddenly saw the blood python poison spirit emitting a sharp screech. Subsequently, countless tiny black light rays were emitted from within its blood-red body. "Let's find out who will be the one devouring the other." A cold laughter seemed to have sounded again. Subsequently, Caoying saw the huge python poison spirit's body beginning to shrink at a shocking rate. Within a short period of time, it was reduced into only over a dozen feet in size. Finally, it was blasted into a bloody fog in front of many stunned pairs of eyes. A blood fog spread before it quickly scattered in every direction. A young man, with a smile on his face, once again appeared in front of the many pairs of eyes all across the mountains. "How is this possible?" Startled voices were emitted from the mouths of many onlookers simultaneously. They never expected that this extremely infamous and ferocious poison spirit in the Beast War region was actually broken in such a peculiar fashion. Caoying immediately spat out a mouthful of blood after his blood spirit was broken. His eyes were also filled with disbelief. "You actually wish to play with devourment with just your abilities?" Lin Dong smiled and looked at Caoying. One of his eyes seemed to have a black swell rotating within. In fact, one could vaguely see traces of blood-light energy sinking and eventually disappearing within the blood swell. This strength had naturally originated from the devouring ancestral symbol. With Lin Dong's advancement to the profound death stage, the full potential of his ancestral symbols were also being gradually revealed. Moreover, with his current techniques, he was able to unleash their powers without anyone noticing. "Who are you?" Caoying's expression was gloomy. A fierce expression flashed deep within his eyes. Lin Dong smiled as the black glow on his finger disappeared. "Someone who will take your life." Caoying suddenly saw a lightning glow swiftly gathering in Lin Dong's other eyes as the latter uttered those words. This unusual change caused a dense chill to rise abruptly within his heart. Two great ancestral symbols. The devouring ancestral symbol played defense while the thunderbolt ancestral symbol played offense. Having advanced into the profound death stage, the strength of the two great ancestral symbols gradually began to show their might in Lin Dong's hands. This video will end here.